You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of our Andor Season 2 recaps here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. And it is Andrew.
Another Star Wars show that we have to see and then not actually review Clone Wars, which is the reason we started this whole fucking podcast.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. Don't worry.
We'll season 2 of Clone Wars in like 2 years.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Tune in for
Andor,
this
guys.
episode in a really long time. Ooh-wee.
Ooh-wee. A year or two, maybe longer.
This does remind me. I do need to continue my rewatch.
Yeah, no, we are we got through the first arc of season 2, and then either Bad Batch or Acolyte happened, and we have just been behind ever since. But
Yep.
Andor is going to be taking up a bit of our time because these episodes are dropping in batches of 3 this season, unlike season 1, where we had the first 3 episodes on the premiere, and then it was weekly from thereafter. So we're going to be having a lot of big, hearty discussions about Andor throughout the next month. Like I said, Andrew, Conor, and Donovan back here to talk about the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2, titled 1 Year Later, Sigrona Tima, and Harvest. And we had a lot happen in these episodes. Before we get into that, though, this has been a huge week to be a Star Wars fan. Not just because of Andor, not just because of the aftermath of Star Wars Celebration, but because Revenge of the Sith was re-released in theaters and had the biggest opening for a re-release in like 15 years, which is crazy to me. I saw it last night. Conor saw it Thursday. I know this wasn't your first time seeing it.
I'm probably going to see it again.
I'm going tomorrow afternoon.
Yep.
But it was my first time seeing it in the theaters, which is insane to me. Revenge of the Sith, just real quick, was the first Star Wars movie that I have memories of being excited for. It was the first new release when I was becoming a Star Wars fan, because I think Attack of the Clones was out or was coming out, but I was too young to like be conscious of that. But Revenge of the Sith, I vividly remember the marketing. I remember the toys, the ad campaigns, the trailers. I remember everything. Didn't get to see it in theaters. I was able to watch it on DVD afterwards, and it changed my life. So to see that now, 20 years later, on the big screen, packed theater, not an empty seat in the house, it was great. I do have to not shout out AMC here because they didn't have the Vader popcorn buckets, and they didn't have a poster up. So, like, what are we doing here, guys? So hopefully when I go tomorrow at a different theater, they will have that Vader cup that I want because of that Hayden Christensen meme where he's just sipping out of the cup. But no, this was incredible. I noticed things that I hadn't noticed prior, which the same thing happened to me when I saw Phantom Menace in the theater last year. It's crazy that you can have movies that have been out for 20, 25 years that we've seen dozens of times at a minimum, and we still notice new things upon rewatches. And it's just, there's just something about seeing it on a big screen that is just unmatched to me. Conor, I know you came to us after you're showing it and said that your view on Anakin's arc in this movie just changed watching it in the cinema. So,
well,
go into that real quick.
Yeah, in a sense, because like, so viewers, watchers, same word. Just see what it feels. Anyway, viewers of this show and listeners of this show probably know. I've probably talked about it here, but I think I've went more into detail on it on my other show, Knights of the Nerd Republic. Like, I kind of don't give much of a shit about the Skywalkers, except Leia. Leia's fucking cool, especially in the comics. Leia's fucking cool.
And Shmi beating the hell out of Shmi in the Lego game.
No,
I mean, Shmi beating the hell out of Sheev in the Lego.
Fuck yeah, Attack of the Clones, baby. No, but when it came to Anakin, so let me pull up what I wrote because I can't. Okay, yeah. So it was weird because, like you said, Andrew, we've seen these movies millions of times, but there's something about seeing it, I guess, in a theater where you like have to actually like lock in and watch it and not get distracted by any outside noise when you're watching it like at your home or whatever or with friends. I, for the first time probably ever, not only felt that Anakin's arc was pretty decently paced in this movie, and again, I'm saying that might have been colored by the fact that I have watched Clone Wars. I have read some of the comics depicting Anakin in the Jedi Order in the prequels. I have read some of the Vader comics. I have through osmosis sort of read other books and comics that sort of go into Anakin's psyche and character in the prequel trilogy. So that really helps solidify his arc a lot more. But still, even independent of that, I thought his arc was pretty decently paced in this movie in terms of like, oh, I'm a good guy now. I'm Darth Vader. I kill kids. That was terrible. But I choke. No, never mind. Never mind.
No, we're not getting into that.
No. I may have inadvertently killed my wife while she has kids. Not really. I'm pretty sure one of the comics kind of goes into that. I could be wrong. I can't remember. Anyway, so I thought his arc was pretty decently paced in the movie. And for actually the first time ever, I actually really felt for Anakin in terms of struggling between his dedication to the Jedi, but then there's his desire to save his wife from almost certain death. And then his whole friendship with Padme getting in the way of his like Jedi duties and abilities. Because like, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I completely forgot that Palpatine in the one scene before they go to the council, Anakin goes to the council, Palpatine just straight up says to him, "Yeah, I'm appointing you to be my personal representative on the council." And I'm like, oh. So, like, that's totally why the council is like, hey.
Yeah, you're not
we're kind of forced to put you on the council, but that doesn't mean we're going to make you a master. So, we kind of can't do that. I don't know. I did not think of that. And it just, Anakin's whole thing of like, hey, I feel like I should be a Jedi and I don't want all this power, but deep inside me, there's this like urge to have all this power and desire for it. I'm like, hell yeah, man. I can not really relate to that, but I can empathize with it.
Yeah, no. My last couple watches have really honed in on that. Like, there's the great scene where he's talking to Padme. It's like, I want more, but I know I shouldn't.
Ooh,
and
the delivery by Hayden Christensen is great there.
My favorite scene, maybe, like, aside from the big lightsaber battles and everything, my favorite scene maybe in the entire movie is right before the Windu Palpatine fight when him and Padme are both looking out the windows. The big thing and this is mainly related to that scene, the big thing I took away from this movie is I've been leaning towards this opinion for like a decade. This is John Williams' magnum opus. I think this is his best film score he's ever done. It is so insanely good in this movie.
That is valid.
And it's incredible.
And getting it with like surround sound, like in the cinema, it was beautiful. I will say my crowd was fairly tame because my friend was like, "Oh yeah, my whole theater cheered when Anakin ignited the saber on the younglings." I'm like, that did not happen in mine.
What the hell?
But
that is some chicken jockey shit right there.
What was crazy to me though was like you could just tell the palpable excitement in the theater when I was like waiting for the opening crawl to hit. The dude next to me was literally like shaking in excitement. It's just like, this is so cool.
Okay. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Can we go back to that?
Yeah. What are we gonna do?
Friends, theater, fear. when he ignited the saber
Cheered, yep.
on the younglings in the temple.
It's like, yay, he's gonna kill the
Every
kids.
single one of those people needs to be checked. They need to be checked.
Oh my God. They need to. People need to take a look at their voting records.
That's
oh boy,
bad.
Hey, we're talking about Andor. It's we can get a little bit more political up in this bitch.
That is bad.
Yeah, it was weird. But
anyway,
can I just add on to what you said about this soundtrack? Because I could not agree with you more about this being perhaps John Williams' best Star Wars soundtrack. Because I loved all of his all of his music for the different movies. I think A New Hope's obviously iconic. Phantom Menace, it has a special place in my heart because of Duel of the Fates. But there is so much with that soundtrack that is just incredible. Like, there's so many tracks that where if you play them instantly in any other media, it instantly gets chills. Like, there's a reason that the Order 66 scenes in Jedi Fallen Order, for instance, hit so hard because they play the Anakin's betrayal song and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. I can say, watching that back in 2005, the wave of sadness, the heartbreak I felt, even though most of these Jedi were at the time glup shittos who I only knew a little bit about, just the music. It's probably one of the saddest pieces of like music we've heard in the history of cinema. Like, I would put it up there with like the Lonely Man theme from the Incredible Hulk TV show in terms of like one of the saddest singular pieces of music we've ever heard.
Every time they use it, it's just like, oh my God, it's a punch to the gut. Like you said, when they used it in Fallen Order, and when they use Anakin's Dark Deeds during the Vader fight, like those are two of the best things. One last thing I want to bring up, speaking of the music, my screening opened with a message from Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
And while they were doing that, the score of Vader arriving to Mustafar was playing, and I was getting goosebumps. Like, just because of the music.
Enter Lord Vader.
Enter Lord Vader is
which also shows up in Battlefront 2, right when they cut to an Imperial Lambda class shuttle going into Pilio.
Ooh.
Yeah.
A lot of the prequel soundtrack is like ingrained in my mind, not only because of the movies, but because of the original Battlefront 2. And like all of the media surrounding that. Like, it's so good. And just getting to see Anakin and Obi-Wan fight on the big screen was insane. And I hope they keep doing this for all the anniversaries. We got Force Awakens later this year. We got Rogue One next year. 2027 is going to be huge because we got the New Hope 50th anniversary and the Attack of the Clones 25th anniversary and the Last Jedi 10th anniversary. So like, you can go a lot of places with that. Also, I have now seen. Go ahead.
I need to mention, I said it before, but I'll say it here on air again. I felt like a TikTok girly in the sense of, if I watch it this time, he won't turn.
Every time.
That's not how it works, man. Dude, especially the fucking scene where Anakin discovers that Palpatine's the Sith Lord, and then he goes to Mace Windu. I'm like, buddy, just fucking strike him down. Like, when he's like,
cut his head off.
Do you want to kill me? And he's like, I would certainly like to. In my mind, I'm like, Anakin, buddy,
just do it. Do it. I can't tell you how many times I've thought that.
God.
Oh my goodness. It's good storytelling though. It's good. It's like good filmmaking, good storytelling. When even though you know what is going to happen, even though you know what's going to come after this, you're still in that moment going, maybe this time it might be different because I'm so engrossed in this story and these characters, and I just would love it to turn out differently because of how tragic everything ultimately spins. But yeah, it's Revenge of the Sith is a special movie, and seeing it, I'm so happy that you finally got to experience it in theaters, Andrew, in cinemas. It's like, I remember I saw it twice back in 2005, and it was an incredible moment. I have so many sense memories, watching Order 66 and just being devastated, but also the kind of like frisson that came over me, like when the Anakin and Obi-Wan's ships like fly down next to the Venator, and the theme starts playing.
So sick.
Dude,
and I was
seeing
like,
that in theaters was
oh my god,
crazy.
And I was like, oh, here we go. This is it. This is the last Star Wars movie. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm never going to see I don't think I'll ever see a Star Wars movie in cinemas again. And it has some of that finality to it, even now, like because of the fact that this is ending George's story. It was a great experience, and I'm so happy that like it's so great that they've re-released it, and to see like you and Conor like both getting to like experience it that way, and the kind of audience reception. I love it. It's great.
One last thing I want to bring up that Conor alluded to when we were talking about this a couple days ago after he saw it is I think it would have been cool because you brought this up if they re-added the Padme deleted scenes into the movie during this re-release.
With Mon Mothma.
Not even just the Padme scenes, all of them.
All of them. Like, I know they're being a bit particular on changing things because of George not being there anymore and like kind of wanting to stick to what his last changes were before he sold the franchise as like his definitive version of the movies. But they remade the Delegation of 2000 canon and those scenes canon in one of the reference books for Andor a couple of years ago. So like ever since that happened, I think Dawn of the Rebellion was the name of it. Like ever since that happened, I've wanted them to reintroduce those scenes into the movie, and I think it would be cool. But this is now 10. This is now 10 of the 12 theatrically released Star Wars movies I've seen in theaters. So A New Hope, Attack of the Clones, please put some theater just re-release those two specific movies so I can see them, please.
I really want to see the trench run in a cinema.
Seeing CGI morph CGI Palpatine.
Yeah.
When he's fighting Mace Windu.
Oh, there's a shot where you clearly can tell.
It's so goddamn funny because it's like, dude, seeing that in the year 2025 is so funny to me. Because it's like, that Lucasfilm, with the resources that they probably have, they could have just touched that up and fixed it, not to make it like not look as grating, but it still does, and it's kind of funny. I think another thing that I really like about Revenge of the Sith, and I guess it's because I was 8 years old when that movie came out, and just I guess the vibes is the best way to put it. The vibes are insane. The early 2000s coupled with the end of the prequels in terms of Star Wars merchandising, games, the books, and just like the sort of 2007 to like 2010 like grittiness when it came to like media, and like Revenge of the Sith obviously coming out 2 years prior to all that, I think just really just fits it so well. And every time I think about Revenge of the Sith, I just think about that era in terms of like the media that came out and just everything. I don't really know how to explain it.
I still maintain that it's the best marketing campaign a movie's ever had. Like
that's true.
It is the one.
Have you guys seen the orange ad?
I will seek out like every original 2005 Revenge of the Sith figure I see because I want to eventually collect the whole line.
When Toys R Us was still a thing, which is wild to say, I bought a fucking Jedi, like Anakin's Jedi Starfighter model. Like I don't know if it was like full size, but it was pretty fucking big. Out of Toys R Us, because I'm like, I fucking need this. This shit's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, you know what I just bought off eBay?
Oh, what did you get?
Oh,
The Force Unleashed Ultimate Sith Edition.
Oh, yes.
I don't know when it's coming, but I think it's supposed to come sometime next week. But like, I just was like, every time I think about Revenge of the Sith, I also think about Force Unleashed because like the vibes of that game in terms of its aesthetic and everything just really, really fit with Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I know.
It looks.
You know what also kind of fits with Revenge of the Sith? Andor.
Yeah, it does.
There we go.
Real quickly, though, before we get into Andor, real quick, we're going to do our little segment that we like to call here the Jedi Archives.
Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
It's been a little bit since we've done the archives. For those who are new here, these are essentially our podcast Hall of Fame. So what we do is we will each nominate something adjacent to Star Wars to go into our Jedi archives, and you, that's right, you, the listeners and the viewers, get to vote on what goes in every week. The last time we did this, I think, was shortly after the Andor trailer dropped. The first one, the Revolution Starts Now trailer. So, of course, I nominated Bix, and Bix is our most recent inductee into the Jedi archives. If I could nominate Bix every week, I would. There's a lot to talk about with Bix this week. Real quickly, though, as my name there we go. Details here. I'm nominating Brasso this week for the archives. We will go further into detail once we get to episode 3, but he was a real homie, man. And
it really was.
One of my favorite Star Wars shots ever will forever be him just screaming with the brick on Ferrix. It's just we'll talk about it more when it happens, but I'm gonna miss him, man. Like, I didn't think we were gonna lose someone this soon, and part of me was just like, yeah, no, Brasso's probably safe. Like, he's not like he's an important character, but he's not like one of the main cast, so I feel like he'll be fine. And then we lost him in like kind of a sudden, unceremonious, almost hollow way to really fit with the arc, and it just hurt. So the real MVP Brasso is my nomination for the archives. Don, I know what you're putting up because you sent me it, so I will flash that on screen. Right.
Okay, so first off, just very quickly, if I'm so happy, I've never been happy to lose to anyone apart from Bix. So if I was going to lose to anyone, sorry, it would be Bix for sure. Mm-hmm. So that's great. But yeah, as the viewers will have just seen, my nominee for this week's archives is a holdover from Star Wars Celebration, and it is the 20th anniversary Lucasfilm animation poster, because holy crap, look at this thing. There are so many characters on this, and it's such a great little
I literally did the zoom in the other day of like trying to see who everyone was, and they have like everyone on there.
There's so many, and all the different art styles as well. Like, you got the Resistance art style, Rebels, Clone Wars, all of it, and they're all like arranged in funny little ways. Like, you got the clone at the very front to symbolize like the Clone Wars and how it's just like iconified the clones. Ahsoka, obviously, Ezra. I can't remember. I don't know. Kaz from
yeah.
I thought you were about to say Cassian Paratus, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
You've got the Force Unleashed brain, Connor. I love that.
The only reason I have it is because I hear that name a lot whenever Force Unleashed is talked about in my circles, because I have a couple buddies of mine who just love Cassian Paratus.
Don't worry, masters. I'll defend you from this Sith trash. I love that guy. He's so tapped. But my favorite little pairing is Tech and the commander droid. Like him showing the droid, his data pad of the droid being like, it's the perfect meme. It's like, I think someone did a meme of like my mum or my dad when I show them like any piece of Star Wars media, or my friend when I show them any piece of Star Wars media. I related to that a lot.
There's one, I think my favorite, I think it's Zeb, Callus, and Hunter are just like rolling out like on the poster, and I think that's just a great pairing.
A married couple and their best friend.
And their best friend, yeah. Connor, I know you said you were winging it. Do you got something for us?
Okay, so here's my question. How far are we stretching the tangentially related to Star Wars thing?
As far as you want to stretch it, my dude.
So this is like really fucking stretching it. One of the Phillies games last year used an open and crawl format for one of their 3-game series. So one of the Phillies on that team, in that game, on that scoreboard, bears my name. So I just sent you a photo, Andrew. We're going with Phillies legend Bryce Harper, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Very tangentially related.
Oh, yeah.
Very.
Potential that we could get like suddenly buried.
There he is. Bryce Harper might be in the archives.
We could very likely, Andrew, get buried under an onslaught of sudden Eagles fans coming in to vote for Phillies legend Bryce Harper.
Philly sports fans are just going to come in here and be like, "Who is Brasso?" Let's have Bryce Harper win this poll.
Lucasfilm Animation's been going for how long?
Yeah. What is a poster?
What's that big thing in the middle?
Star Wars?
Yeah.
Listen, you said tangentially related, and I just automatically thought back to that.
You're like opening crawl, Bryce Harper. There we go. So those are our nominations this week. You can decide between Brasso, the Lucasfilm 20th animation, and Chex Notes, Phillies legend Bryce Harper. So we will put out a poll on our social media shortly after this episode drops, and you guys can decide who goes into the archives. But now let's talk about Andor. And I think what I loved about these arcs is how seamlessly each character's arcs blended throughout the episode. Like you had Cassian's whole ordeal at the beginning, and then he gets involved with the worst group of rebels maybe ever, ? And then all bringing it back.
They suck.
Mina-Rau.
Suck
and then
so
you
hard.
had Bix, Brasso, Willman, all them on Mina-Rau. You had Krennic's ordeal with Dedra, and then you had what I think was the strongest part of these whole episodes, which was Mon Mothma's arc on Chandrila. Crazy that this is the first time in live action, and I think in animation too, but just in like visual Star Wars media, that we've seen Chandrila, which is like for a planet that's existed for this long, it's crazy that we finally have seen it. And we got to see a good look at like the culture and what goes into the Chandrila. And we
also have the return of director Orson Krennic.
Oh, we do. And he's got his like weird. He's got his weird infomercial about the Ghormans.
Oh God!
Great.
Dude,
I
that
love
shit
the
was
delivery.
So funny to me.
The delivery, access to stable, unlimited power will transform the galactic economy and solidify imperial authority.
I love,
and it turns out spiders are not the most important thing on Ghorman.
I just love Ben Mendelsohn so much.
He's gotta have just so much fun delivering this shit. Like, he really does, dude. Like, there's no way he's not having fun delivering.
He's having so much fun.
He's having a blast.
He blends so well. I knew he would blend so well with the ISB collective that we saw in season 1, like with Partagaz, with Dedra, and he fits so well in with that whole group because he has like that same kind of like backstabbing, scheming kind of vibe going on, and it's great to see him more kind of like confident and almost kind of like throwing his weight around as Director Krennic, because like he hasn't got to deal with his higher ups yet, like Vader or like Tarkin. It's really interesting to see.
It was like, anyone in this room, no one that isn't in here can know about this. So no Yularen, no Tarkin, and it's just boom, Ghorman, and then they have to try and figure out how to spin what they're gonna do to mine the resources. The rich Calcite. And then you have the 2 fucking ministers, like the propaganda machine. Just, it felt too real, man. Like that scene. Like, I think the title that they used is ripped straight from like shit that was in the Nazi regime during World War II. So it's crazy. And then Dedra's just there.
From
just
one fascist system to another, baby.
Exactly. I think we can start though. I posted on Twitter and Blue Sky that the first 10 or so minutes of episode 1 and the last 10 or so minutes of episode 3 are some of my favorite Star Wars like when we get introduced to Cassian again and he's just calming down. Is it Nia? Is that her name?
It's Nia, yes.
And because
I just need to say this. I'm skipping ahead 2 episodes. I was so goddamn tired. I thought that was her at the end of episode 3 when Tay Coleman went in the fucking speeder. I did not think that was Cinta. And then like everyone was like, "Oh, dude, it was so cool when Cinta showed up." And I was like, "When? Am I blind?"
You're like, "Oh man, it's weird that Vel's having this stare down with Nia."
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a minute. Well, and then just like, this whole foreboding music, I'm like, oh, I guess Tay Coleman's getting whacked by this rebel operative, I guess. And everyone's like, oh, it was cool seeing Cinta. And I was like, what?
It's all right. I had a moment too where I was watching it because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna watch the first episode, and then I watched all 3 in one sitting.
Yeah.
And so like in the middle of like Tay's arc in the second episode, I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like, they're killing him? Like when did this happen? Like, and then I had to go back and rewatch the scene because I'm like, what am I missing?
Dude,
it's so subtle as well. It escalates so quickly. But Connor, since you mentioned Cinta, you brought Cinta up.
It's back.
She seems kind of familiar, right? Like retroactively, almost like she might have gone and done a whole other sci-fi show in between series 1 and 2. So yeah,
God damn it.
Time. It's time for a retroactive Who Watch episode, baby. We're starting off strong here. So yeah, in between series 1 and series 2, wouldn't you know it, Virada Sethu, Cinta's actress, not only went and guest starred in Ncuti Gatwa's first series of Doctor Who in an episode where the Doctor is like stuck on a landmine for half the time. She is now the new companion for his second series. She's playing Belinda Chandra, and there's a whole mystery involved of like why the Doctor is trying to get her back to Earth, like to her specific time. But it's really great that she's there. Obviously, I was excited when she was cast because I loved her in Andor. She was my favorite among the Aldani rebels for like her quiet determination and her steeliness. And she's definitely bringing out a new, different kind of vibe with Ncuti. She's basically, I can't narrow her down in a single episode because she's currently in all of them. We've literally just had the 3rd episode drop yesterday. And so far it's really cool. I haven't seen the 3rd episode, but there is a 2nd episode which I would recommend you two gentlemen watch because it is wild. The Doctor and Belinda basically battle a living Fleischer era cartoon voiced by Alan Cumming. And he has a musical number and everything. It's crazy. It's a wild episode. But it turns out Virada is not the only person who's been in Doctor Who. There were, in fact, 2 other actors in this arc, in the first episode, who had also been in Doctor Who. I've got notes, gentlemen. This is how in depth this has got.
Lay it on.
We have Josh Slovic, who plays Lieutenant Moy in that ISB meeting that we talked about. He was in the special Power of the Doctor, which was Jodie Whittaker's final episode as the 13th Doctor before she regenerated. He played like a generic messenger in that. But the second actor is David Westhead, who plays Admiral Daysar, who is also another ISB person. And he was in David Tennant's 3rd series of Doctor Who. He was in an episode called The Shakespeare Code, an episode that's aged a little questionably, given the way the writer turned out. But he's the actor, I presume, is fine. He played like an character called Kempe. That's a wild episode. There's a lot of there's witchy aliens and William Shakespeare, but he treated like a rock star. It's some wild shit. There's my favorite bit in that episode, just to end it off, is Queen Elizabeth comes to see William Shakespeare perform at the Globe Theatre, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, Queen Elizabeth I," and she recognizes him immediately and goes, "Doctor, my sworn enemy," and off with his head. And the whole time, David Tennant's just going, "What?"
I love that we went maybe 3 shows in a row with only 2 or 3 Who Watches in the whole thing, and we get 3 in the first episode combined.
Hey, those are just the people I noticed. By the time we get to the end, I'm going to go back through the whole credits, and I'll probably have picked up a few more people. There were a lot of British actors in these first 3 episodes. So stay tuned.
I just wanted to talk about this first scene with how Cassian is just comforting Nia. I thought it was so effective, and he kind of just went against Luthen's whole thing of not letting your identity be shown. Don't let him see your face. I'm not supposed to see your face. It's I want you to be comfortable, because she's clearly having doubts because they're both undercover as TIE fighter test pilots for the new TIE. Is it the TIE Avenger?
TIE Avenger, yes.
Yeah.
On the planet Shinar, which for me at least is so goddamn cool, because I think I always kind of thought like, oh, Synar's a planet. But with the way that Synar fleet systems always sounded, I thought, okay, it's just it might just be a company as well. But the fact that it's a fucking planet in Star Wars now, fuck yeah.
That's so cool.
So excited.
But Tony Gilroy's not a Star Wars fan.
It will be a trivia question at some point.
And there's no Easter eggs. The Rebels character that shows up, not an Easter egg, not in this show.
No Easter eggs, no bricks.
I did not pick up on that at all. I wrote a fucking 5-pointer based on that guy.
Hell yeah.
I really like that scene too, Andrew, though. Like the scene with the TIE event.
And I was like, who? And then I was like, holy shit. That's the guy I wrote a 5-pointer about.
Didn't I lose off of that fucking guy?
Probably.
I think I did. It was like, who's Mon Mothma's aide in that Rebels episode?
Yep, that was
that
question.
Oh my god!
Immediately, he's on my Tim list.
I am evil with how much I take pride in the 5-pointers I write. There are 2 of which I'm very proud of that I cannot say on the air.
Ooh. So yeah, Cassian tries escaping with the TIE Avenger at this point. There's a great moment where he's trying to figure out the controls and he starts flying in reverse. And then
the funny thing about him flying in reverse was the thing I loved about the framing of that moment specifically was he was really figuring it out, really locking in. And he puts his hand on the control on the little steering wheel. And for me, at least, the way it was starting to frame, it's okay, he's going to do it. And it's going to be this sick fucking, he's going to jump forward. And then he does it and goes in reverse. And I'm just I'm dying, dude.
Yeah.
It's very independent. And I love that he yells shit.
Witty that this first little bit was. A nice little refresher. We got range troopers showing up, which haven't been seen since Solo. Really cool design. He eventually gets off that base. It was just a really cool scene. And he crash lands.
They look so familiar.
Exactly. He crash lands on this, unspecified jungle planet, or so we think. I can't wait to talk about that reveal. I also just want to quickly point out that this fighter suit that Cassian is wearing throughout this entire arc is immediately one of my new favorite costumes in Star Wars of all time. I have the Black Series already over there. I don't want to grab it right now, but it is such a cool look. And
with the red over the shoulders and stuff. It's really cool.
Interior of the TIE as well, with all the LED screens and everything. It looked so sweet. The set design. Again, I'm not a staunch volume hater. I can be at points, but I think what makes the shows that are not filmed in the volume compared to the ones that are, they feel. The production is just there, man. There are certain shows where there are certain scenes in Kenobi, certain scenes in Ahsoka where you can just tell that it's in the volume. Yeah. And I just don't have that problem with Andor, and I didn't have that problem with Acolyte for the most part, because real sets just make a difference. And I think the volume is cool. The way Skeleton Crew used it, I thought was unbelievable. And I think if they continue to use it in that way, I think it could be really effective. But I would prefer a mixture of the two for what the standard is, and not just the fact that I think Mando and Grogu was almost shot entirely on the volume is upsetting to me, if I'm being honest.
It was.
I think some of it is, or at least the majority of it. I completely
forgot about this. Darn, that's a little odd.
Yeah,
I know it's going to be really interesting to see how Ahsoka season 2 looks, because that is being filmed in the UK. I know they've built a UK version of the volume, I think, at Pinewood or something, or wherever they are filming. But I get the sense they'll probably do a bit more location shooting. I hope they do anyway, because there's a lot of cool locations that would fit the environment of I forget the name of the planet.
Why am I forgetting? Peridia.
Yeah. Peridia, so many environments that would so many environments over in the UK that would fit Peridia's the rocky country locale very well. But going back to what you said about the practical effects and the sets and stuff, the TIE Avenger interior I loved how it felt so tactile and real, and there's something about like very like real physical sets and props that you can like touch and get the sense of like their weight and their distribution, and like the fallibility of them, almost like by the end of the arc there's like dust in the cockpit. It's all a bit like roughed up a little bit because of like what the TIE Avenger has like and Cassian have gone through, and it lends like a level of like kind of realism in a sense to like the goings on. To also include what you said, Connor, I did also love the comedy of it just lurching backwards, him yelling shit. We got our second shit in Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And it's so natural as well.
You know what? You know what's funny though? I say all this about sets and everything, and how much I think it adds so much to these shows. But then again, I'm also watching Revenge of the Sith last night, which is like 90% green screen, and just looking at the Coruscant night sky, and I'm just like, I miss this shit, man. Let's bring it back to this.
Okay,
so,
okay. Coruscant, Mustafar, Udapau, those environments are just like incredible in terms of their like design and stuff. And I think they use some miniatures for it. I'm not sure how much of the environments there were created through miniatures. I know Phantom Menace did a lot
Phantom
of that.
Menace was the most practical of the prequels for certain.
Like the shot of them like fighting like through the corridors of Mustafar and the bit with the volcano. Like they actually used, I believe, like an actual volcanic eruption. They superimposed that into the shot. Yeah, like when they like grab their lightsabers together.
Oh yeah, dude, that fucking shot. That's like one of the most iconic Star Wars shots I think of all.
It's so incredible. It's like it's just magical shit, man. It really is. But yeah, the TIE Avenger is a cool pull as well. I love that they pulled that from the TIE Fighter game.
Yeah,
in the 90s. But yeah, again Tony
Gilroy's not a Star Wars fan.
Not a Star Wars fan, right?
Yeah.
He's not pulling that at all to like go, yeah, here you go, you weird fucking nerds.
Tony also strikes me. Tony also strikes me as a guy that probably had like pretty frequent collaboration with the story group and was like pretty fucking cool with them. I could be wrong, but like that's just the vibe I get from him. Where
someone responded to my tweet about talking about this, and he was like, "The dude now made his second reference to the Rakatan Empire. Like the dude is a fan." And I'm like, not even Dave is doing that.
The camera lingers on Plo Koon's mask in Luthen's shot, like just in case you didn't notice it in Series 1.
Filoni
Here it is, right in your face.
Broke into a cold sweat when that shot happened.
Yeah.
But cool, man.
And then we also see Bix.
Bix, yes.
Our wonderful traumatized queen.
I was because they cut to Mina-Rau. Yeah. And then I completely forgot what Dr. Gorst looked like because it has been a minute since I've seen him.
I never forgot that fucker's face.
And they show him in the mirror. I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? And then they see him approaching Bix, and Bix wakes up from the nightmare. I'm like, oh, we're getting us right back into it with our poor traumatized queen. I'm glad that she's doing a little bit better. Like you see her making jokes with Ghorman. Obviously, it's been a year since the events of season 1.
Yeah.
And I do like that they seem to be the way they word it. It doesn't seem like Cassian's return at the end of episode 3 was the first time they've seen him since the season 1 finale. Like it seems like he was there at Mina-Rau a couple of times, because the townspeople and the farmers all know about him and they mention him by name. Brasso has kind of joined this adoptive family with do you remember his girlfriend's name that has the daughter that Wilson is kind of seeing?
I did, and I forgot.
The red-haired lady is named Talia.
Talia, yep.
Yes, Talia.
The girl is Bila.
Who's
trying to who Bix is basically trying to set Wilmon up with.
Yep. So, it's like, oh, you're thirsty? I'm like, oh, man, that was good. And then it shows her, and I'm like, that's just great.
Yep.
It's very, very canny there, Bix. We appreciate it. It was, I can I just say as well, I love the vibe of like the sort of community spirit that we see on Mina-Rau. For one thing, it's a really cool new location. You know, we've seen like sort of like wheat planets, space planets in novels before. Like there was the planet in the High Republic that opens. I'm blanking on planets again, but the planet at the start of Light of the Jedi that Avar Kriss and the Jedi save from the Great Disaster. Hetzel Prime, exactly. Thank you, Connor. There's that, but we've never really seen this kind of like planet represented before, and it's a really cool way of sort of answering visually. Yeah, this is how the galaxy gets fed. Basically, this is the main production of food in the galaxy, and it's really cool. Like you had the little mountain community like nestled amidst the huge fields of wheat, and then the sort of like number etched on there, the very industrial looking number showing that this is probably what the whole planet looks like. But there's a real sense of community there. Like the people there have like they're workers. They take real pride and passion in like what they do, and it's really lovely to see that they've got such a beautiful community spirit, and they all treat each other the same. And Bix, Brasso, and Willman, despite being outsiders, they're not treated any different. They're welcomed into the family, despite the fact that they don't have documents. They're at risk of being discovered by the Imperials. Again,
what do you think?
Very real.
This is an allusion to.
I don't know. I can't imagine what it could be an allusion to, Andrew, especially with the talk about visas and stuff like that.
What's crazy to me is this was shot, I think, in like 2023, early 2024, and it hits so much different now.
Oh yeah,
I imagine the optics of it would probably hit around the same if like we had a woman president who was running, but
same.
Country doesn't like women. I
we
guess
we can only hope.
It's just interesting. Like I wonder how the optics of all that would have been.
Oh yeah,
changed. But
sure.
We can't live in that. We gotta live.
We can't live in that. We gotta live in the world of the Empire, actually. But speaking of the Empire, how things just immediately changed, like on a dial, like when that Imperial ship shows up in the sky on Mina-Rau, and
the dread
immediately freezes up. You're just like, oh no. And it's just so like in the first 2 episodes, it just feels so like mundane, just so trivial, like them just doing an audit of the workers and what's going down on that planet. And like you don't really think that like danger is going to happen, but you just feel this instant dread of, oh God, what's going to happen? And they can't reach Cassian because the Empire shuts down the comms during the audit. Clea is freaking the fuck out on Chandrila because she can't communicate with anyone because she can't reach them because of the
Luthen's getting impatient.
Luthen's getting impatient. To segue to that, I loved how we had the Chandrilan wedding mixed with all the rebel stuff. Like Luthen shows up, Mon's like, what the fuck is he doing here?
Yeah.
And he's chatting up with Davil Skolden, and he's chatting up with Take Holma, and
he's like fishing for details from that one Imperial dude, like pretending
it was great. And also shout out Clea, like one of the most underrated characters I think in this whole show. She gets shit done, man, and I think she's awesome.
She just quietly takes off, heads back to Coruscant, and just like sends off a message to Cassian. It's really interesting, like to see, despite her distrusting nature and her often curt treatment of Mon Mothma and Vel, that she really does care about like keeping the rebellion alive and getting the job done, like keeping in contact with Cassian, which is also interesting because it also has like undertones of like the theme of this arc, really about the need for these rebels to band together. And the minute that you start not trusting each other and you fall into patterns of paranoia and distrust, you kind of wind up like the Maya Pay Brigade, basically.
Oh boy, the Maya Pay Brigade.
They suck so fucking hard. It's I literally like, it's a great subversion because like I think we all saw the trailer and we thought, oh, Cassian's going to spend this whole first arc trying to steal the TIE Avenger. We're going to see how he gets on Sinar. We're going to see how he works out to infiltrate as a test pilot.
That's the first 5 minutes.
Starts. It's the first 5 minutes. He's already got the suit. He's already stolen the thing. And the real tension is not him stealing the TIE. It's how is he going to stop these rebels or survive these rebels, like so determinedly ripping each other to shreds. It's like, it's such a great subversion and a really interesting. I mean, I've seen the jokes. It was basically, yes, I do agree. It was basically like being on Star Wars Twitter.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know what the most wild thing about Andor to me is that the 3 arcs we're gonna 4. I'm an idiot. 4 arcs we're gonna get. We were supposed to have 5 seasons of this show.
Yeah. So this first arc was going to be a season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
Was it Cassian who spent the whole
about.
series stuck with these guys?
That is wild to think about, man. That,
and they changed it. So I was kind of because we know that this season, each arc takes place over a year. So I was kind of expecting time to pass a whole lot more frequently during this arc, where at least this first one was very contained, took place during probably just a couple of days. And it just,
which is wild to think about in the context of Star Wars, because who gives a fuck about time?
I know, but we're like, oh man, the first year it's just spent entirely at Mon Mothma or Lita's wedding, and that's the passage of time we see here. But these rebels suck, dude. They're just immediately Cassian's on this unspecified jungle planet to meet up with his contact to kind of trade the tie with him, and they've killed his contact. They're like, oh, because I think they're called the Mayapai Brigade, but
yes,
the titular Mayapai I think has been killed, and they're in denial over it, and they're just infighting. They have him imprisoned. He's trying to give him advice. They're like, dude, shut the fuck up. And then you have that moment at the end of the episode where, and I'm jumping all over the place here, but I feel like we can do it with Cassian's arc here. Where they just get in each other's faces, and I just remember one dude is named Crab, and he shoots the one girl, and then they just all start shooting at each other, and the episode ends with Cassian just being kind of thrown at the camera by the two rebels, and I was just like, oh, it's a Brendan here.
And it's such an awesome cliffhanger with a blaster bolt literally striking the camera. It's so cool. I can't believe no one's thought to end a Star Wars episode that way, with an actual blaster bolt whacking the camera in the face. It's so cool. I shall also point out that the one of these Mayapai Brigade rebels, Girdis, is played by Sam Gilroy, Tony Gilroy's son, which I thought was quite cool.
Is that
the one with the longer
dude?
hair? The long-haired dude, who seems somewhat reasonable, aside from the fact that he seemed to want to insist that he was in charge. I almost would, if we all knew all their names, I almost would suggest playing a game to decide which one of the Mayapai Brigade do we hate the most, because there's so many of them and they all contribute in different ways.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of zoned out during that portion of the episode. I was just like, all right, Cassian's got to figure this shit out. And there's rebel infighting, and then it would cut to the calculated wretchedness of the Empire.
Yeah, I really enjoyed these.
Don, who the fuck was that?
That was my brother handing me a key.
I saw a fucking hand, and I saw a thumbs up, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm very dexterous. What can I say?
For anyone listening and not watching, Don's brother just straight up put his hand in the frame and gave him a Star Wars coffee mug, and put a thumbs up as he was exiting out of frame, and I was very confused at first. I was like, what the fuck?
Legend.
It was some eldritch horror that just happened. Oh my god!
Oh my god! That's
fucked with me so hard.
But yeah, no, dude, I think it might have just been because I hated these fucking guys. But yeah, the Mayapai stuff, while I liked it, I think compared to what was happening with the Empire and compared to what was happening on Mina-Rau, I think was my by default least favorite arc or storyline in these first two episodes.
Zoned out.
But once it merged,
went to Cassian's.
Once Cassian's story merged with Bix's and Luthen's, I was immediately hooked in again. But
I'm going to counter you guys and say that I did actually start to enjoy it, mainly because I realized what it was getting at thematically. Because at first I was just getting frustrated.
I know what it's getting at. And I liked it a lot more in the second episode.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
Episode, I'm just like, what's going on?
Definitely.
This is weird. Because we're so used to...
And then, for the first time in 9 years, we have the return of Director Orson Krennic.
Yes.
And the amount of people I've seen on TikTok that are like, this diva is just so goddamn funny, because he really is. The way Ben Mendelsohn delivers the lines he's given in this show so far it's just nothing short of incredible.
Yeah,
Like-
he's so awesome, dude.
I
Like,
like
so
really
over the
get
top.
him right off the bat. It's like here's Krennic in the first episode. We're not going to make you wait for him. We
Yep.
immediately start getting details about what is going to
Ghorman.
eventually happen with the Ghorman massacre. It's probably
Which
going to play
I
out throughout
genuinely
multiple arcs.
forgot. I genuinely forgot that, like, I think like a week or so before the show, like Tony, I think it was either Tony or someone else that said like, oh yeah, the Ghorman stuff is going to be like throughout the whole season. And at first I thought like, okay, yeah, maybe like we'll get like a little bit here and there and then it'll really ramp up. Nope. We're just throwing you right fucking into it.
What I
really
loved
are.
was the difference between Krennic's depiction of how, like, fabricating the Ghormans as an enemy compared to Dedra, who was, like, basically giving the idea of, infiltrate whatever rebellion is going on Ghorman and go from there, make them an enemy because of that. And you just see the strategy behind Dedra. But as we see in the second episode, she feels like she does not want to take this job when she's talking to Partagaz. She feels it almost as a demotion because of what happened on Ferrix. And it's kind of weird that you're like, what's eventually going to lead to a planetary genocide is a demotion for Dedra? But
yeah,
But this is the thing, isn't it? We know, this is going to backfire massively for the Empire because it's going to lead to Mon Mothma doing that huge
that
speech,
Calcite.
which I cannot wait.
and
We
they
all
want
know
the
Genevieve.
spiders.
We all know
Oh,
Genevieve
God.
Ryder is going to
Spider-Man.
cook.
Let me just say, maybe it's because of trauma from that episode from The Mandalorian season 2, but when they showed the spiders in the video, I was like, oh no, we're not getting another spider episode, are we?
I
Or the
felt very
giant
seen.
things in fucking Rebels.
That silk weaving spiders are a really important part of the Mace Windu and the Glass Abyss novel. So I felt very seen having just read that. It was incidentally great book.
But again, Tony Gilroy isn't a fan.
Not a fan. Not a fan of Star Wars.
But
What are we doing here?
We all know that this is going to backfire massively for the Empire. This is going to lead to
Mhm.
Mon Mothma eventually outing herself as a rebel, denouncing Palpatine in the Senate, which is going to be an all-timer scene. I can just tell it is. And we're going to get her extraction from Coruscant and a figurehead for finally a figurehead, a public figurehead for the Rebel Alliance, which is
Greater Rebel
is
Alliance. Which
a person for. Sorry,
I was going to say it makes the shit on that jungle planet work better because you get to see how in disarray these rebel sects are. Or they're just separate little pockets of rebellion instead of
fermenting.
instead of
we got to do it once an episode.
Force exactly.
Pockets of fermenting, sir.
Where's Linus Mosk in these first episodes? God,
Poor dude's still like chugging alcohol back on Ferrix. He's just been left in the dust. Cyril's too busy having a sitcom plotline to.
We'll get to that. I think we can move to the second episode because the second episode is when a lot of the juicy shit happens. Go ahead.
I just want to interject with what I was going to say about Mon Mothma and the rebels because you were absolutely right. It connects so well with the Maya Pei Brigade because we're seeing how these rebels just like go to pieces without like solid leadership and why that kind of trust and loyalty, despite Luthen and Clea's kind of like cloak and dagger approach where they can't afford to be spotted or seen or any of that kind of like subterfuge stuff. It's working, but it's also creating an air of paranoia and distrust, the kind that Cassian is going against. Like we see at the start of the episode when he comforts his fellow rebel, but it also lends a touch of like hope and a counterbalance to the tragedy that we're going to see with Mon Mothma and her family, because even whilst we're seeing so much of her personal life go down, get torn to shreds before her eyes, there's always that kind of hope of but she is going through all this for a good cause. She's needed for the rebellion. She's needed to keep things from like completely like going off like the rails, like we see with the Maya Pei Brigade. It's just really cool stuff to like balance out such like really dark stuff and really heavy material with like a counterbalance of hope of like, we know this is coming.
Yeah.
The second episode, like I said, is when a lot of the juicy shit starts to happen, specifically with Mon's storyline, because one of the first things,
and
Dedra. Should we start with that? I think we should start with that.
with the
Because
sitcom plot.
as I
Also,
mentioned-
can we talk about the fact that the fucking badass speech line where fucking what's the word? Where Syril goes, "There's a future here for those who dare."
Yeah.
Like, all of us were like, "Oh, he's maybe having a rebel moment." It's about fucking pencil pushing in an Empire office job.
I know he's
Like-
literally interviewing a new employee and talking it up
staring
like
at
He's
the-
fucking
staring at his
glorifying an
soul.
office job. That's the
Like-
funniest shit and most Cyril shit ever.
It's like, dude, you're hyping up basically working in an office. Stop being so pathetic.
I got it.
Like,
When we had Emily of Kessel Run Relay on for the finale last year, and or 3 years ago at this point almost, and she spent like a solid 25-30 minutes talking about Syril Karn, like that when that was like the Danny DeVito like, oh my god, I get it meme for me for Syril. These 2 episodes was officially that for me, because like this. And then we're seeing Dedra just like having these like fake smiles in the mirror, which I thought were great.
That's one of the most terrifying things I've seen.
I'm not gonna lie. Like when we see when they cut to her and she has her hair down and she's in regular garb, I'm like, oh, cool. You know, we're seeing her in her apartment. It's a new side. You know, let's see what's happening. And then I see Syril, and I was like, wait a minute. And then I connected the dots, and I was like, wait a minute.
I had to almost pause the episode. I was like, wait, what?
They're living
Because
together?
when we last see them,
This
like he's like saving her on Ferrix, but it's
Yeah,
still
this
kind of
weird
like
tension.
awkward.
we all kind of
tension.
assumed that Dedra was like, oh no, now I'm indebted to this guy. But it does kind of seem like that was a moment where they decided they liked each other.
Yeah, now
and
they're just
formed a
dating.
relationship.
They're living with each other.
Fucking wild.
They're preparing to
sure-
meet, the mother
Edie.
from hell in Edie's garden.
I kind of like
man.
Edie.
I can't
She's
wait
so-
till we get to
She's
that
the
part.
worst.
Like it was just like I think it was just the one scene they had in this episode together, but I was just like, what is going on here? And I was so for it at the same time because I find it
Miro
so
trying to.
I
Denise
find it so
Goff
funny
trying to
that
smile is one of the most terrifying things I have seen. Like Denise Goff, credit to her, like finding the exact kind of like level of fake smile to just make you go, "Oh no, that doesn't seem natural at all." That's like very good acting.
yeah, like I just love that we cut to this like Connor said, this imperial sitcom that I would pay money to watch if it's just the nosy neighbor, which is just Cyril's mom, just keeps coming in and ruining their plans for their dinner date. And I just love that they're like building us up like, oh, we have these important plans we've been pushing off. And of course it's them meeting Cyril's mom for the first time. I also just love that
nervous.
I also
about
just love that it's
meeting
been
Edie as well.
a year since they've assuming since they started dating and it's taken this long to meet Cyril's mom because Cyril's just dreading it. Like
He's like, no,
Yeah.
you don't want to meet her. Trust me.
but again, it's just like you can have a future here. I'm like, dude, this dude is just so
There's a future here for
fucking
those who dare.
dare.
I said it on Knights of the Nerd
It's
Republic.
so
I'm gonna say
pathetic.
it here again. 90. I am like 1,000% certain that quote, out of context, is going to be put in some fucking corporate, but like real life corporate, like fucking job, like
recruitment
office.
video.
As like a fucking recruitment video, or like some stockholders like or like some like big executives like
I can see it.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah,
have like
people
a
ask like, where'd you
quote
get the
up
quote
there.
from? People ask
Yeah.
where'd you get the quote from, and they show and then they show the meme of Syril.
I still love. I just can't get over that. It's like, dude, when he said that line in the trailer, I was like, okay, let's see where he's gonna go with this. Nope, he's fucking glorifying a fucking office job.
I love that. I laughed when I realized he was still there. He just got promoted. I thought, oh, is he going to be part of the ISB? Is he going to be like? Is he going to be like a co-worker with Dedra? No, he just got promoted.
Yeah,
At his
I
office
love that
job.
Dedra is literally like tasked with Krennic of like going over this Ghorman project. Syril just still in the Bureau of Standards, just still.
And also, we know that this is going to go badly for Dedra as well, the Ghorman massacre. So what's going to happen to her after that? Like,
yeah, I'm very
she messed up with
what...
she messed up with Ferrix, and that clearly caused her a bit of flack. So what the hell's going to happen to her with the Ghorman massacre? Like,
I think one of these characters, at least one, we're going to find out was on the Death Star during A New Hope.
Yeah.
Like Syril's going to have like a job sweeping floors. He's going to the best job ever. Man, I love my job. What do you think of this job? And it's like a fucking mouse droid going like,
you know, the reveal in The Force Awakens when Finn is sanitation. Like Syril would view that as a step up. He'd be like, "Oh honor. Shit,
this is an honor.
I get to clean the floors of Starkiller Base." Like
Darth Vader walks these halls.
Yep.
But back to Chandrila. We immediately get like
fucking weird wedding.
Yeah, it's a weird. Like they're like scaling this mountain. We start like Perrin has a conversation with Mon. He's like, "Oh yeah, your boyfriend Tate Coleman had to get carried away last night because he was drinking." So immediately we're like, "What's going on?" Like he's gonna have some problems. We find out in the first episode that his wife left him, and I'm just like, oh. Tate Coleman, he's falling on hard times because season 1 Andor Twitter was like, "Oh man, Mon, leave Perrin for Tay. Like he's the one you deserve."
Friend.
Andor season 2 Twitter immediately, yo, fuck Tay Coleman, dude. Like
fucking Tay
shit. And it's just immediately because I had trouble catching up on it. Because the first conversation they have, he's, "Oh yeah, I'm down on money right now," and the rebel activities have been kind of causing a hit to my reputation and my finances. And I might need some money here. And like he's like kind of implying that he's gonna sell her out to the Empire. And that's when Luthen's like, "Find a number."
Man. Genevieve O'Reilly's face, the way her face just drops when he starts saying that, and like her walking around the table, that whole scene, I just felt for Mon because I was like, Tay had been the one person aside from Vel that she could count on, that she thought she could trust a little bit, and for him to fall short of the mark so far in these episodes, it's crushing to see him go from that to like, it was devastating. Like when I realized that he was basically blackmailing her, I was like, "Oh my god!"
And then you of course have Luthen,
real dude.
You of course have Luthen watching like a hawk. Like, what the fuck did this dude just say? Like, we're gonna kill him.
Hey, you got to stop talking, dude.
Like, find a number.
Who's watching? You don't know who's watching. What a great exchange! What a great exchange! We'll find a number. You know the number. That's so. I don't know what you're implying. How nice for you.
How nice. Yeah.
Oh, the scenes with Mon and Luthen are like great because of just this, like the fact that they are equally intelligent, but just so different in terms of their morals and what they're willing to sacrifice for, like, because Mon makes sacrifices, but she's so determined to make sure that she doesn't fall into the same trap as like the Imperials. And Luthen is so much more reckless.
Sacrifice for her. She let her daughter get married off essentially just so the rebellion could live on and she could have some funding from shady businessman Davil Skolden. But the alternate title for this arc would be Mon Mothma has a mental breakdown. Like, because you just see it happen throughout the course of the arc.
We all thought she was having a bit of fun dancing. We had no idea that she was in fact crashing out. Really,
no, we had a club crash out scene in Star Wars.
Like, okay. So to go back to that conversation, because again, I didn't pick up on fucking anything. Maybe I shouldn't watch these episodes at like 10, 11 at night. I don't know what the fuck Luthen. Yeah, I should not. I don't know what the fuck Luthen was talking about when he was like, "You know the number," and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's talking about like the fucking number 0. I don't know. I was very confused.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what.
Yeah, because like, we're gonna have a meeting on Coruscant. Luthen's like, "Yeah, a meeting." Like, sure, like whatever. Like, keep telling yourself that.
But they're on speed dial.
Exactly. We all, speaking of Cinta, like as they're like scaling this mountain, which is a part of like the wedding thing. Again, what a weird weekend this is for a wedding. But like we catch up with Vel, who's got a new look, by the way, Slay Queen. And like Mon just kind of like drops the tidbit that her and Cinta like, oh, what happened to your friend? I'm like, just say it. Just say it. Rip the Band-Aid off.
We all know that they're girlfriends. Come on.
She doesn't know where Cinta is. They haven't seen each other, which makes the reveal where, according to Conor, it was Nia driving off. But it makes that reveal so much more powerful because this might have been the first time they've seen each other since Ferris.
And it's the look of like surprise, but also a little bit of disgust on Vel's face because she knows exactly what Cinta's there to do, and the fact that
framed as like
she knows Tay. Oh,
exactly.
She fucking is. Like she's so lethal. Like her just like greeting Tay with a smile. It's like you've got the immediate opposite reaction of it's Cinta. Oh no. Oh no, I know what you're there for. Oh no, and like. I love Vel's reaction of like, this is because Tay, she would have known Tay as well, because given that she's Mon's cousin, she's got a close connection to like all of Mon's friends. So that's quite insane for her to be seeing like Cinta literally escorting a family friend into the afterlife.
Vel was Mon's cousin.
Mon's cousin.
Yeah.
I don't pick up on any of this shit, man.
There's
I'm just here for Cassian and Bix, man.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I'm here for Bix too. So like, but there's so much information in these episodes. It's crazy, and the dialogue
also, you know what else we find out in the second episode, guys?
Go on.
The Jungle Planet.
Oh
yeah. Actually,
yes,
Yavin 4.
Oh my god!
Which I was like, that was clever, guys.
Okay, I yelled out loud when I saw
the reveal.
I literally
oh my god!
Like, oh my god! It's Yavin. We were on Yavin the whole time. Like that shot of the tie, climbing, going past the Masasi Temple. It was so good. It was so good.
I literally screamed, "Is that?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" And
I was like, "Oh my god!" I was literally going like through the whole credits. I was going, "That was so good. That was so good."
I love that it's like they were this close. They were this close to getting to where the end goal is for the rebels. In A New Hope.
Cassian's basically like, "Yeah, guys." I know the perfect place to touch down for the record, like if we need a base. But yeah, like I also kind of feel like Tony Gilroy was messing with us all a bunch because it's like this is kind of like the weird example of like having so many repeat jungle and forest planets actually pay off, because you like at first when Star Wars came back, we were all we saw a forest planet, we were like, is that Andor? Is that Yavin? And then it would be a different planet.
It's Gluff Shadow.
Exactly. And we've spent so long kind of like seeing that play out that we would be, our natural assumption would be, oh well, yeah, this is probably another like different jungle or forest planet. So the reveal that it actually this time it was Yavin was so very cool, and it kind of shows again that those Maya Pay Brigade, they were so close to like true rebellion, true coalescence, and they just felt they could have had it all, but they just wanted to play space rock paper scissors in the dark.
Oh, that was so weird, dude.
I was like, I literally was like this. Come on.
I was like, come on.
Are you
guys,
for real? You're not seriously doing this in the dark.
Just the tension of it all, like throughout, there was like the opening bit of the episode where the one girl is crawling and like the dude's severed foot is there.
And foot, man, that was grim.
Just the threat throughout the episode, like, because they kept talking about like the beasts in the jungle, and I was like, is there actually a beast, or like is anything gonna happen? And they're just like having a turf war the whole episode. They're trying to move. The one group is trying to move the tie so it can shoot at the other group, and they're in this stalemate, and then they just end it with fucking space rock paper scissors, and Cassian's just like, what the fuck is going on over there?
He's like, yeah, I gotta get my Glock now and just like get the hell out of here because this is getting ridiculous. Like they're not serious people. They're just like just so tapped out at this point. But since we mentioned the monster, I have got to say, most effective jump scare in Star Wars TV, because holy shit, when that thing just comes screaming into the frame and just like eats both of the fucking like rebel leaders. I absolutely jumped out of my skin. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, no, it came out of nowhere.
They're just like dead
nowhere. And then
I wish I had these reactions because I was so fucking tired. that I was just like, oh, cool, monsters. They're going to kill these people. Thank God.
Yeah. There's
Connor's like,
the initial,
the fuck off this
there was
planet.
the initial shock. There was the initial shock of that. And then
I was like,
they got
Cassian,
eaten.
buddy, what are we doing here?
They got eaten.
Get out.
The two leaders got eaten. Yes.
Mhm. The last thing we can really touch on for this episode is the shit on Mina-Rau.
Oh,
because we find like they're given plans.
No, the one little moment I want to touch on that I just thought was extremely fucked up. Not the fucked up moment we're gonna get to.
Yeah.
That, but like something else was when in the third episode, before they I guess they really start the wedding ceremony, Mon Mothma goes to her daughter and consoles in her and is basically like, we could call this off. Like, you don't have to go through with this. And she's practically begging her daughter to do this. And her daughter just is like, I wish you were drunk, and tells her to fuck off. And I was like, dude.
It's like,
what the fuck?
We all knew Lita was a piece of work from series 1, but you get softened up a little bit on her because of that scene where she's crying because, you know, it turns out Davos Golden's son, her fiance, is a child and doesn't listen to her, and she's basically being married off into a relationship where she has very little autonomy and power, despite like the Chandrilan traditionalism that she's embracing. And it's again, this is something that again feels very real because, like, you know, usually in fiction you get the whole thing of the progressive kid, like, you know, clashing with their parent who's leaning a bit more conservative. But you know, this is again a very recent, very real thing of, like, you know, you look at the numbers. There's all these younger people like weirdly just leaning towards conservatism, like Trumpism or like reform if you're in the UK. But it was a really interesting kind of dynamic with Lita and Mon Mothma, and as you said, that whole thing of, like, you know, granted she has no indication of why Mon Mothma is saying this to her, and Mon sadly has been something of an absent parent because she's literally keeping the rebellion afloat with her money. But it's so sad to see a character like, because we all, Mon Mothma's been one of those characters that's been like basically described as mother the whole time through the fandom, and it's so sad to see that, you know, her relationship with her actual daughter is so strained because of the system of the Empire, the oppression that the Empire has created has forced her to withdraw from her family because she has to keep the rebellion alive through her funding and her leadership. And it's so messed up because in fighting fascism, like the fascist system loops back around and isolates both her daughter and her husband from her, which we've all harped on Perrin. I'm gonna like save some interesting thoughts about Perrin for when we get to episode 3, because I actually think we could see a bit of a change.
We're already
episode 3.
Yeah.
So I'll just say it. I actually think Perrin might redeem himself a little bit here because
I didn't hate him in these episodes.
The fact that he looked even a teeny bit concerned when Mon Mothma was just drunk dancing, I was like, when your shithead of a husband is looking concerned, something's wrong.
Oh yeah, I actually think that Perrin might actually kind of like redeem himself a little bit, and actually kind of we might actually see that despite how strained his and Mon's marriage is, he does on a deeper level love his wife and kind of like want to help her in some shape or form. It would be really interesting to see how he fits into the whole into Escape from Coruscant and her whole like arc there, because that's going to be fascinating to see. But I am actually optimistic for Perrin, especially after how much of a fucking disappointment Taya's been.
The newlyweds. I thought that was like, it still had like Perrinisms where it's like, oh well, you can't just ignore everything and just have fun. But it was just like it was not like, oh, just, you know, combat your anxieties and live. Like, I liked that, and I wasn't fully hate, like there was the one, oh, your boyfriend Taya. I was like, dude, fuck off and die. But like,
shut the hell up.
There were, it wasn't as bad as it was in season 1. Lita, though, you're disappointing me, girly. One last tidbit from episode 2 before we go full on in episode 3 with the Mina-Rau stuff. their one farmer friend basically saying, "Oh, you're going to go to this other sector to hide there while the Empire is there." Yep. And we get our first glimpse of Bix just chilling, and she's approached by Imperial officer, man. And immediately I was like, I don't like where this is going, man.
I felt so uncomfortable during those scenes. It was crazy. Like, the more that actor, the way he played it, there's just, because he doesn't really look all that threatening, that Imperial officer, but just the energy he gives off, and like the way the music is just, there's like that slow level of dread throughout. And Adria Arjona's, like, the look on her face during those scenes, she's incredible in these episodes, by the way, utterly fantastic,
insanely good in these episodes.
Like the fear we felt, and he does from just his presence being in her space, like just talking to her, it's so well done, and it sets up what we're going to see.
It was one of those things where that scene made me think, oh, are we going to get something like this? But I was like, well, I don't think they're gonna show that, or if they do, they're not gonna be as upfront and transparent about it. Just because of when we have seen stuff like this in Star Wars, at least not in the films, it's been like Kira and Dryden Voss. There's definitely some undertones of something happened, and if you read
like coercion or grooming,
some things that occur there, but like we've never seen it depicted like we would in your typical like drama series that you see on streaming or cable. But they go for it. And the one thing where Bix was like, oh, when he tries asking her to was it a dance or something, whatever the thing was in the town square, it's like, oh yeah, I don't think my husband would like that much. I was like, oh, that hits right there. Like, that's definitely something that so many women have said.
Oh yeah, totally.
And she's just like, also the fact that like she was thinking of Cassian when she said that, I'm like, ow, it hurts.
The feels.
But
you know what the most messed up thing for all that was for me was, I texted my one friend. This is barely it is related. I texted my one friend while I was watching episode 2. Before I think any of that really happened, I was like, I just thought of this really cute Star Wars crossover that would be really cool. And it was Bix meeting the Skeleton Crew kids. I'm like, that would be really cool. I feel like she'd have a great time. And then episode 3 happened. And I'm like, damn, I unfortunately cooked here.
Bix can't have anything at this
point.
Let's get into the 3rd episode, though. I love how
want to address the elephant in the room.
Let's just address the elephant in the room right off the top of that. We see really for the first time this explicitly not even implied, but just like straight up attempted sexual assault by the Imperial officer to Bix. And this has been the subject of debate and discussion throughout the week of, does this have a place in Star Wars? And my answer to that is no, because it doesn't have a place in the real world, but it does. And that's what's fucked up about it.
Exactly. Because I've been thinking about this like all week, and I absolutely agree with you that it's like, yes, it doesn't have a place in Star Wars, but then again, it doesn't have a place in the real world. And what I love about
I was just gonna say, I know a lot of the debate has been regarding whether or not they should add some type of content warning. And to that, I say yes.
They should have.
I do agree.
Should have.
Dude, they had the grace, thankfully, to add a content warning before the first episode of Kenobi.
Yeah.
For an event that we all knew was gonna be depicted in the first episode of Kenobi, or that we were gonna see in some way. So a trigger warning or a content warning before that episode, I think, would have been great.
I think they should retroactively add it. I think they will.
Totally.
I'm shocked they haven't yet. But I know it was jarring for people that have been in those situations to see that. And whether or not, like we always say, oh, Star Wars is inherently political, but Star Wars just in general is a form of escapism for a lot of people. Not in the, I don't want politics in my Star Wars, but just like when shit is going on in life, you can turn this on and you can just escape and you can be in this world. And even in shows like Andor, where they're just heavier than, say, your Skeleton Crews and your Mandalorians and your Star Wars Rebels. And that's the beauty of Star Wars, is all these things can exist at the same time. And Tony Gilroy said that perfectly this week, but he's not a real Star Wars fan apparently. For some people to not expect to see, reawakened trauma open up in these episodes, I totally see. Yes, I would be for them including this content warning, and the people I've talked to have said the same thing.
Totally.
And if that bothers you that they're gonna put a content warning, because I've seen people say, well, there's genocide and there's all the, like, we didn't need content warnings for those. To those, there's this simple thing called skip. And you can just get right past that, and boom, there you go. It doesn't affect you after that. It's as simple as that.
See, this is the interesting thing. It's like, because I think we as a society are still so far off from like adequately like covering topics like this in media, but to the point where when this stuff is included in any media, it gets like a massive discussion point. But I actually think it was a really valid decision to include this here. I do agree with you about the trigger warning. I hope they put that in retroactively. But
I think the conversation of that versus the actual scene, I think, is pretty separate.
Exactly.
I think you can have the opinion of, yes, there should have been one, but also like this was not necessary. I don't think that's the right word, but like important to have a scene like this.
Exactly the wording I would go with.
How much Tony and Adria have talked about how important it was to create this scene and to pick this scene. Again, it was shocking. It's not something, even in episode 2, where I was having the feeling that we were going to get something like this. It was shocking to see it happen, but also I am so glad that Bix was able to kill her abuser, beat the shit out of him
with the hammer. So there is inherently
rewarding.
There is somewhat a form of not escapism is the wrong word, but kind of like a sense of justice being done in the sense that she is able to kill her attempted abuser. But I do think it was a really valid decision to include this in, because as Tony Gilroy, he goes into it really well in interviews. But this is a show that is all about exploring life under an authoritarian system, under a fascist system, and rape or sexual assault. It is, in a lot of ways, the truest and the ugliest manifestation of what authoritarianism is. It is people with power deciding that because they have power over you, that means that they can do what they want to you, and they can do what they want to your body, especially if you are a woman. And it was, I think it was very, very well done. Like, it's very jarring, as you said, very alarming. But the fact that she killed her abuser, and the fact that they had the guts to actually put the line in there, that was, if anything, that was the thing that really, really shocked me.
You know how it showed the Empire's fucked up? Because she said, "Oh, he tried to rape me," and they're still aiming their guns at her. They're still like, "We're going to open fire."
The Imperial officer, the implication there that the Imperial officer outside, he hears Bix and the officer struggling. He doesn't move a muscle. The minute he hears that officer yell out in pain, then he stands up and draws his blaster, and that has such a chilling implication.
It's all about using power over people that you deem to be inferior or powerless.
Exactly. And I think,
whether or not you say, "Oh, it's out of place," it happens in these governments. And no, this is the only thing I'm going to bring up. Or they would turn a blind eye to this. They would do what every other authoritarian government would do, because that's what authoritarian governments do. Whether or not it's this or that, any form of abuse of power and just using that power to make others feel inferior or lesser is what authoritarianism is.
Yeah.
And again, as Tony Gilroy said, you see this throughout history. You see this in pretty much every form of authoritarian government, where whether it's sexual assault, whether it's murder, whether it's class discrimination, you see it everywhere. And for a show where they're trying to depict the horrors of the Empire in a more gritty, real way than we've seen before, to where it still is Star Wars, I thought
Yeah.
that, yes, it's like, in an ideal world, no, we wouldn't need a scene like this.
But
And no, I think tone matters a lot, because would I have a scene like this in The Phantom Menace? No, I would not. No, I would not. But I think in Andor, it works because we've seen them explore similar things that we haven't seen other Star Wars shows do. Not in terms of politics, because there's inherently political themes in every Star Wars project, as Jared, friend of the show, said on Blue Sky. But I think they've tackled things in a way to where it doesn't feel out of the ordinary. And I feel like I'm going in circles here, because it's hard to talk about topics like these.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And I don't have all the right things to say, because there is no inherently true, correct opinion to this. And that's why it's so nuanced. And that's why it took a lot of us out. It was powerful for a lot of people. If anyone has any last things they want to say before we get into the other parts of this episode, I just hope that they give the character a break, man. Like, I feel like
she needs a hug, man.
Yeah,
she needs a hug. It's like she's been through so much, and like that.
What I will say,
like I said before, have her meet the skeleton crew kids.
Yeah.
That would cure her.
Give her own spin-off. She's earned it. Audrey
sometimes I forget though how dark the torture stuff from season 1 was. So,
oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, they in a way opened the door to something like this happening. And I think it was
hopefully they close it with her, and hopefully she gets a fucking break.
Hopefully she gets a break, because we do see the other stuff we see of her in the trailer.
Right. She guns down an imp officer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck
she's fully in the rebellion, I think, by that point. And this is what I was going to say.
There's that in the trailer, the scene of them walking away, blowing up the one ship. Like, I want to see that for
hell yeah
the show. I hope this is like a closure of that fucked up Ferrex Mina-Rau part of Bix, and we can just go full on with badass, awesome Bix.
Oh, her with the huge blaster, like shooting the other Imperial. It's great, but I also love, again, the nuanced look that Adria has on her face during that scene is fantastic. Her acting carries the nuance of that scene, because it would be very easy for this to fall into this trap of like, oh, well, the fact that she went through this and killed her abuser, it's empowering, and it kind of is, but the real nuance there for me is that it's fucked up, and the fact that it engages with the fact that it's fucked up is what really separates it from other kind of weaker scenes in, say, Game of Thrones. You know, you have Bix. She's been trying so hard throughout this arc to put herself back together, because again, you mentioned the torture scene. That was basically a more like kind of like vague kind of version of what we see here. She was basically violated on just like a horrific level by Dr. Gorse and Dedra. Dedra was complicit in that. And she has been trying this whole arc to piece herself back together, to find some semblance of who she was before that horror with the ISB happened. But this whole incident, and she lives in terror the whole arc when the Empire shows up. And this whole experience is sadly kind of basically a moment of clarity for her, that the Empire will not let her rest. They won't leave her be. They won't leave her to heal. She wants
how just immediately tense and scared she gets when that ship shows up in orbit.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And I just give Bix a break, man.
I hate this for her, but I don't want to say excited. Excited seems like the wrong word to use, considering the conversation we just had.
I'm
looking forward to seeing how not recovers again. I can't think of the right fucking words with this shit. But like, I guess in the context of Bix's story, I'm looking forward to seeing how she's sort of like, I can't even fucking say it. How
she heals,
how she turns into
forward.
How she turns into like the seemingly badass, like, fuck these guys person that we see,
like,
which probably will happen. I would assume will happen not in the next. Well, okay, maybe it might happen in the next arc. Who the fuck knows?
Who knows?
Wait. I just realized the first Andor trailer and then the second one, 100% are continuing the unwritten tradition of the trailers. The footage of the trailers that we're going to show you guys is from like the first like couple episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
In this case, the first 2 arcs.
Yeah.
The majority of those first trailers were in like these episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that there's a lot we don't know is going to happen, and we're going to see that play out. But there was still a lot to these episodes besides that scene.
Yep.
We talked about
Edie Karn.
Edie Karn. Let's talk about that instead first. Get some levity in here. We get in an episode with maybe the most fucked up scene that we've ever seen in Star Wars. We get maybe the funniest scene we've ever seen in Star Wars, which is just Syril just laid out on the bed, just face down.
That is
Apparently
the best Syril
escaping
scene ever.
from his mother.
He improv'd it. I know. It's crazy. He gets it. He gets it.
Fucking pathetic too.
He's so absolutely pathetic. It's great. Like, it's great that while like Dedra and Edie are having this conversation, he's just like on the bed, like, oh, I suck.
I can't deal with this. I feel that because like, dude, he's again, we've said it before earlier in the episode. He's probably so goddamn embarrassed at this shit. He's like, I just want to crawl away.
I loved the little like I loved so much of that whole like sitcom plot. Him like making sure like the cutlery was correct as well. The fact that they have like space. The fact that I was like, oh god, like I get it. You've got a little bit of like obsessive compulsive thing, but my god, stop. I love that they've got like sort of again I'm blanking. They've got kind of like space fondue. They've got space fondue with the things, and like Edie, despite her going on about like being part of Coruscant high society, the way she like cuts up the dessert like a child is great. Like
we find out that Uncle Harlow has a criminal record too. So
okay, this is the bit I love. And again, this is the messed up thing about Dedra.
Off on her.
This is the messed up thing about Dedra. Even after all she's done, it's kind of like cool to see her like actually confront Edie and actually kind of say, no, I'm dictating the terms here. This is how your relationship with Syril will progress. I will dictate everything here. I will control the terms.
That was so interesting. I was
the way she shut up as well when Dedra cut across her. She's not used to people speaking to her like that, and it shows. It was so well acted as well by both of them. Like Denise Goff, man, she's so menacing. Like when she goes into full ISB mode, it was great. It's just, again, it's a really different kind of like dynamic. We don't normally see Imperials have these kind of like interfamily dynamics. We got a little bit of that in the Aldani arc, but like only a tiny bit. And this was really cool. This was really funny. It was brilliant. It was the light we needed.
It was the light we needed, and like missing is the wrong word because Edie is just one of those like love to hate kind of characters. But like getting this dynamic back with Syril, I was like, oh man, like I missed this. And Dedra putting her in her place and dictating the rules with her and Syril, I thought was great. And then again, while he's just laid on the bed, just completely helpless, I thought was fucking hilarious.
And now we're going to get to one of the more unsettling aspects of the episode, at least for me. Maybe it's because of everything that transpires with Mon Mothma before and during this episode, but like her just fucking downing alcohol and just drunk dancing. When I watched it, I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. She's basically realizing that, like, oh yeah, the one guy who helped finance the rebellion is going to get fucking whacked by one of the more radical leaders that I've clashed heads with. And also, my daughter's getting married in an arranged marriage that I kind of basically wanted to not happen, and she told me to fuck off.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, I was, like in the moment I was watching it, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, this makes sense. And I remember thinking about it, and I texted it to you guys where I was just like, damn, this is really unsettling.
Yeah. It's
so
literally
messed up.
like a club crash out scene in Star Wars.
Like,
It's crazy.
Like,
her childhood best friend that she's known her whole life is getting killed because he tried blackmailing her. Her daughter again told her to fuck off at the altar. She's stuck in this arranged marriage with a literal child. It's a child marriage, and so she's like, "All right, fuck it, I'm just gonna dance." And everyone says like, "Oh, every time the Niamos track plays, some fucked up shit happens in this show," and of course, it leads into some fucked up shit that happens at the end of the episode on Mina-Rau. But they did again. Hats off to whoever posted this. But the 1 hour edit of Mon Mothma dancing, guys, I had it on last night. I got 29 minutes in. I'm not even joking with you. I just had it on. I was like watching it, and I'm just like added on in the background as I'm like looking at shit, and I'm like,
it's like the polar opposite.
How far am I in here?
It's the polar opposite to when Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, and like people demanded that we see Zemo doing his dancing for like an hour, like release the Zemo dancing cut. I remember it. I was there for it. It's the polar opposite. That was so frivolous and fun, and here's Mon just like crashing out because her life, as she knows it, is literally coming to an end.
We saw those scenes in the trailer of the dance. We're like, oh shit! Like Andor is gonna go like dance party movie. Like it's gonna be great. Like what is this? But in the context of the episode, you feel so horrible for Mon at this point.
It's the exact opposite of the whole, like, there's a future here for those who dare.
Genevieve
that sounds really inspirational from Syril, interestingly enough. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's pathetic.
I think this was like Genevieve O'Reilly, like, oh, just send the scene to the Emmys just now. Like it's
she's so good.
She's so good in these episodes.
Every time she shows up in these episodes, I love it because it's like I love that she has come from like being cast in a deleted scene for Revenge of the Sith that we were just talking about earlier, and now she's here and she's giving like Emmy worthy performances. Like we skipped over it. But like when she's talking to Leader and Leader's talking about her marriage and she says with utter sincerity, I'm so sorry, because she knows that she's trapped her daughter in this despite her daughter's enthusiasm for all of the like traditional Chandrilan traditionalism that Mon fought so hard to get away from. It's devastating. It's devastating.
The show has really strongly depicted like the gradual movement to the right that a lot of young people are going through these days.
Yeah.
The most recent election shows that. But like you see Lita, who like is given all the opportunities in the world to not go full on traditional Chandrila, like Vel and Mon want her to not do, and she just says no. And her and Perrin seem to be the archetypes of traditionalism and conservatism and
this is
dude,
the
I get that
Perrin though.
No, go ahead, Don.
I was just gonna say it because Perrin is kind of just ambivalent. He's not real. Like I remember in series 1, Mon says, "Oh no, Perrin's actually quite liberal about this. He's not really. He doesn't like the traditionalism any more than Mon does." So I think this is also again teeing him up a little bit for something of a redemption because he's kind of resigned to Leader marrying into this kind of traditionalism stuff, even while he enjoys his life on Coruscant being away from all of that. So it's again, it's really nuanced and interesting with this whole family. The whole, like, who would have thought a wedding, we'd get a wedding episode in Star Wars and it would be so utterly riveting. Like there's so much cool stuff to talk here for us to talk here about. I can't talk now, that we actually skipped over that incredible Wanna that went all through the set of the Mothma estate and showed Mon meeting family members, like delegates coming there to talk about the wedding, and we just see her like moving. It was fantastic, like so well.
That's another thing that you can't do in the volume is shots like that because you just easily can't because of how it's set up. But it again, that was a great scene.
I need Mon Mothma. Like I get it, probably wouldn't be in her character to do it. I need Mon Mothma to pop an Imperial, man. I need to have. She just get a blaster pistol and just pop one of these fuckers.
Just the guy that Luthen was chatting up, like, oh, you're in the Navy, huh? Like, just blaster, boom, take him out.
Okay, we all know Cassian's gonna like extract her from Coruscant when she gives her big speech. Let's have like a scene where Cassian's fighting some guys off, and she just like grabs a blaster and just pops one of them as they're about to shoot Cassian, and Cassian's I
feel like it's funny you mentioned that because I was just thinking that like I feel like it would be. I don't want to say damsel in distress. Like I hate saying this in terms of like in the context of a damsel in distress thing, but I can see like Mon Mothma just kind of being like, I don't want to do this, and Cassian's just like, just take the fucking blaster, and she just gets it, and she's just like, fuck it, and just starts fucking popping off on these guys.
Okay,
it needs to happen. It's never gonna happen, but I would love if it happened. Just pops one of these fuckers, man.
Before we get into the Brasso of it all, with that final scene on Mina-Rau, I just quickly want to shout out the costume design in these 3 episodes too. They posted on the Star Wars website like the various costumes throughout the episode, not just Cassian's, but all of the Chandrila wedding thing, like all of Mon's outfits. Lita's wedding gown was gorgeous. They just, again, I can't wait till hopefully this is all in the Art of Andor book that they announced at Celebration, because I just want to see more of it. And shit like this makes me mad that Star Wars costume book they put out after Revenge of the Sith still goes for like $400 on Amazon, because I want that
Jesus
shit, man. It's terrible. But we get back to Mina-Rau at the beginning of the episode. Cassian is still flying in the Avenger. He's able to get to Clea because she's been unable to reach anyone. He finally gets to her. They're having like this coded conversation, and she's able to tell him that the Empire is on that planet. He immediately says, fuck whatever I'm going to do, turns around, goes right to that planet.
Oh, and the opening shot of him drifting through space in the TIE Avenger is
that was
beautiful.
Sick.
It's beautiful. It's like,
and then we
so
get
cool.
introduced to Kellen, who I thought my dumbass was like, oh yeah, this is the Tim of the episode.
I did the same thing, man. I did wrong. The same thing, man.
It took me a rewatch to realize that this guy actually hadn't turned them over to the Imperials. That what Brasso was doing in that scene where Brasso like pretends to run at him, he was covering for him. And the minute I realized that, my heart broke all over again, because I was like, oh my god, Brasso is going out the way we met him, where he is not only covering for a friend, he's doing such a again, he's just springing into action, covering for a friend, making sure that they're okay, that they won't be harmed by whatever force is hunting them. And it's perfect, cyclical storytelling with him. And again, I can't believe we lost Brasso, man. I'm numb over it. I was worried about him for sure, given I thought he was going to die in series 1 for sure during Marva's funeral, but to lose him the way that we did.
I was actually thinking that we were going to lose Will, just because of how his plot was built up. With him introducing the girl, and I was just worried that if we were going to lose anyone in these episodes, it was going to be him. So then for Brasso to die, and for it to happen after such a fuck yeah scene of Cassian arriving and just taking out all those Imperials on the TIE Avenger.
POV shot of the TIE Avenger launching that missile and blowing up the transport. It was
like some
good
Dune shit in that scene. It was so cool. And
give me all the good cinematography.
Then you cut and you see smoke in the distance, and Brasso's speeder is down. And I had to go back and watch it, because I was like, did I miss him getting shot? Then it's like they don't show it. It's just so. It's just so that's why I use the word hollow, because you just don't see it, and Cassian sees it, immediately gets out of the TIE, runs right to him, and he's already gone at that point. And I was like, God.
Fucking stormtrooper, man. Like the minute the camera slowed down and pulled in on that one stormtrooper taking his time with the blaster, I got really nervous. And the fact that we didn't see anything afterwards, I was like, oh no, we don't know if Brasso is okay. We need to see if Brasso's okay. Is he safe? Is he all right? He was not all right. Spoilers. He was not.
God damn it, man.
This is where I need to give a special I'm inside your walls to Tony Gilroy, because the Niamos wedding mix on the soundtrack is named Brasso. die. Just like
It's getting clipped.
die. Like, and I thought it worked so well that song was playing not only during Mon's crash out, but during this scene. And as you're just watching like Diego Luna's acting, just by his body language and his facial expressions at the end of the episode on the TIE Avenger is just so heartbreaking. Because this dude is like, he literally had to leave his friend behind. That he came all the way here to save, and they're able to save Will, and they're able to save Bix. But when Bix is like, no, we still need Brasso, and he just looks at her, and I'm just like, fuck. And
again,
that's why I'm like,
I just thought back to the Rogue One line of Cassian saying, everything I did for the rebellion. Fuck!
Again, this is the thing. I've done terrible things in the name of the rebellion. We saw him do one of those things again. Leave all those rebels to die at the hands of those creatures. That's so good. And again,
there's another insane parallel to Rogue One that I just want to make sure I have right real quick. And it's at the beginning of the episode episode 1 with Naya and Cassian, which was Cassian saying, "You're coming home to yourself."
yes.
Oh, fuck. Coming home to yourself, and then Cassian saying welcome home to Jyn when she gets to Yavin 4.
Oh my god.
In Rogue One. It's great. Oh.
Can I also point out something that we have gone the whole episode without talking about? They left B2 behind. They left B2 Emo behind, man.
I didn't realize this until the day after I watched the episodes. I was like,
wait, I didn't realize it.
B2's gone.
He's just wondering where Cassian is. He's just going to spend the rest of his life wondering where Cassian is.
Well, maybe he goes back. I'm delusional.
Because we were like, oh no, what's going to happen to B2?
I mean, it's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing that happened to him. He's still intact. That's great, but I don't think he'll ever see Cassian again, and that's heartbreaking.
I hate Star Wars, man. This shit sucks.
As Jake often likes to say, it's pain.
It's pain. I take back everything I said in this episode. This shit is fucking horrible. But
I got to also mention as well, you said about the Niamos score, brilliantly done. I was a bit worried that Brandon Roberts, as the composer, I was worried about a new composer stepping in after Nicholas Britell's incredible score.
Yeah.
One. But Brandon Roberts more than acquitted himself here.
More than acquitted, yeah. That was great.
Is great. I love that there's like sort of, it sounded like when it builds up to the club music, there's almost like horse hooves cantering to sort of build you up to the kind of like club vibes that we then transition to. It's really cool stuff. I'm not a music person per se in terms of like composition and stuff like that, but I love a good score, and I think
what I did love though was that they started episode 1 with that classic Britell like Andor opening. I was just like, oh, we are back. Because I was like, oh, we're gonna start with the recap or something. Nope, they just go right into it. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, here we go. But yeah, no, I think we've gone over a lot of stuff. We could still obviously go deeper on a lot of these topics. But when we have 3 episodes to cover a week, we have to make some sacrifices for the good of the rebellion. But I thought it was a really strong start
for the good of the Republic.
For the Republic, yeah. The rebellion isn't a thing yet in our podcast name.
This podcast is for the Republic.
It's for the Republic. Yes,
you're here to fight for it. You're here, and you're going to fight for it.
So.
Oh, that's right.
Again,
Saw returns.
He does.
Oh,
some point.
I just have this image in my head of Saw, like in the back. If he was at Mon Mothma's wedding, just standing in the background, like when Luthen's talking about killing Tay, like whacking Tay, going, "Yes, kill him, yes, for the rebellion."
But yeah, no, I thought it was it was a very powerful start to the season, and I'm very interested in seeing where next arc goes with. Continuing to build up the Ghorman massacre. What's going to happen next? Like, is this going to be like where we see slick back hair Cassian with the goggles that we saw in the trailer? Like what's going to be next
in his Grease era?
Exactly. I'm excited, man. And, it's going to be weird because we got Andor next week, and next Sunday we have Tales of the Underworld. So we're going to be busy. But
we're going to be busy.
It's going to be fun. So I think we can wrap things up here. As for where everyone can find you, Donovan, why don't you start us off?
Right, so I will keep this brief. You can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, at TikTok. On TikTok, you can find me at Donovan McComish, Instagram at Donovan_McComish. Same for Threads and Blue Sky at Donovan McComish.bsky.social. You can also find me on Star Wars Inner Galaxy Epic Confrontations, where I'm a question writer. We got some cool late matchups coming in the coming months, so keep your ears peeled for that if you like Star Wars personalities having trivia face-offs. I've also written a Star Wars fan story called Scars of War. I need to get an updated link to that so I can post it in my bio. But yeah, if you like Star Wars and pain, dealing with PTSD, and especially if it's in the aftermath of Order 66 for like a clone and a Jedi, then yeah, maybe give it a read. It was a lot of fun to write.
Mr. Shikiti, where can everyone find you?
Well, not Twitter. Blue Sky, even though I don't really use it, at Depa Banana. Mainly Instagram at ConmanJFO, where I just talk Star Wars and Philly sports.
Based.
And then where else? Oh, Knights of the Nerd Republic, part of the Nerd Academy podcast. You can find us, just Google Nerd Academy. Just Google the Nerd Academy podcast, and you can find all our links there. Holy shit. And like Don, I am a question writer and co-host over at Star Wars in a Galaxy Epic Confrontations. You can find all of our past, present, and future matches over at the Star Wars in a Galaxy YouTube channel, and you can follow our socials over at In a Galaxy Trivia. We have a couple exciting matches coming up in the pipeline. Yeah, I like writing questions, especially 5-pointers. It's just fun.
Pain.
Oh, he writes some good ones.
Pain.
Yeah, it is evil how proud I am of 5-pointers.
It is evil.
I've got at least one that I'm a little bit proud of, mainly just because of how much apparently it caused someone to crash out.
I can't remember. I'll have to ask you which one. I have a couple that haven't been asked yet, and I'm waiting for the day that they get used.
Scary. As for myself, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Starlight Andrew. StarlightAndrew.bsky.social on Blue Sky. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, and on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at For the Republic Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, For the Republic Podcast, as we are eking towards 100 episodes and 100 subscribers, so that is very exciting as well. Also, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Like I said, we will be doing these weekly. So once we get a dedicated recording date, we will figure out when that is, and we will be going from there. We'll figure out when to cover Tales of the Underworld at some point, and then after Andor finishes up, we will get back to the Clone Wars. Also, tying back to Revenge of the Sith that we talked about earlier, I am in the process of starting a fun little side video about one of the tie-ins that Revenge of the Sith had at the beginning of 2005. So
yes,
look forward to that. I'm hoping to have it out by the actual anniversary of the film, which is the 19th of May. So look forward to that. Stay tuned for more of our Andor coverage, and until next time, may the Force be with you always.